Brothers and sisters, yesterday was the anniversary of the martyrdom of Al-Hajj Malik Shahbaz, also known as Malcolm X, rahimahullah wa radiyallahu an. Brothers and sisters, in the past I have spoken on multiple occasions about who Malcolm X is in the life of every single one of us in this room today. Because every single one of us, whether we appreciate it or not, our lives have been touched and impacted deeply by the will of Allah through this man, our father. Taju Ru'usina, he is the crown of our heads in the American Muslim landscape, Malcolm X. It behooves all of us, parents and children, to learn about what he actually means to us. And I've given khutb on this, and you can go back and watch them. But I want to share one reflection in this particular thread of having an opinion of Allah about the person of Malcolm X. When you read his life, you know that he went through every difficulty that any of us can even think of. He's been to prison. He grew up in a time and place where the pigment of his skin caused him so much turmoil and trauma and abuse and oppression. But he was firm in his soul and his heart, committed to a higher purpose and calling always throughout his life, facing difficulty after difficulty, hardship after hardship. The assassination attempts, the firebombing of his home, the threats upon him and his family, the security apparatus of our country breathing down his neck every second. When he entered into Sunni Islam, just a very short period of time before he was ultimately martyred and killed, that meant such a traumatic transition, because to walk away from the nation in that point for him was a very, very difficult decision. But brothers and sisters, one thing, that regardless of how difficult his life was, regardless of the pains and the traumas and the struggles and the difficulties and every form of evil you can think of, all of it, regardless of it all, Malcolm X always had a smile on his face. Always, you look at his pictures, videos, he had the most beautiful smile on his face. Kana bashushul wajh. He had a prophetic characteristic of his face always being beautiful, light and bright with a beautiful smile. Did you ever ask yourself, with all of that trauma and pain, how did he maintain a smile like that? You have to ask yourself that question, because that's not haphazard. There's something profoundly beautiful and deeply theological and spiritual in that smile. And I have to assume that it had something to do with his opinion and his knowledge of Allah. Because one thing that he says in his autobiography is he says that Islam is the only religion that truly abolishes fear. It's the only religion that truly rids the person of any fear. And that was his haqiqah. By the way, he knew he was going to be killed. He prophesied it on TV. You can go back and watch the interviews. He prophesied his own death. He knew he was going to be killed. Imam Waris Din Muhammad asked him and said to him, "Get away, go, you have to get away right now." And he said, if I'm meant to be killed, I will be killed. Fearless. Because his thiqah, his trust in Allah was unwavering. That's why it didn't matter where he was. Whether he was in the Oxford Union, the 92nd Street Y, whether he was in the streets, whether he was talking to the security apparatus, whether he was being listened to by the security apparatus, he never feared. لا يخاف في الله لومة لائم. He never feared. Never once did fear penetrate his heart. Of course, this is some poetic license. Of course, everyone feels some type of fear. But the type of fear that I'm talking about is the fear of weakness. When I should stop, when I should retreat, when I shouldn't speak, when I shouldn't wear my hijab, when I shouldn't wear my beard, when I shouldn't say my name, when I shouldn't exude my Islam because I'm worried. That was not his reality. And I believe that his reality was the way it was because of what he knew about Allah. His form of surrender lillah, his form of submission to Allah was one that elevated him and entered him into a very different space. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Verily the friends of Allah, لا خوف عليهم, no fears upon them, ولا هم يحزنون, and they never experience the real sadness of not having. The sadness of not having. No. لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. These are the friends of Allah. And some of my teachers, يحسبونه من الأولياء, they perceive of Malcolm that he had the qualities of wilayah. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to the believers after Uhud, what did he say? وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Don't ever become weak. لَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. And don't be sad when you have been elevated. إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. If you are true believers.